The sun was setting over the bustling streets of Chicago, casting long shadows across the sidewalks. The air carried a crisp chill, signaling the arrival of autumn. People hurried along the streets, their breath visible in small puffs as they wrapped themselves tighter in coats and scarves. Cars honked impatiently at intersections while streetlights flickered to life, illuminating the city's endless motion. Among the crowd stood Olivia Grant, her polished black boots tapping lightly against the pavement. Olivia didn't belong here. Not at this bus stop, not on this corner of the street. She looked out of place, like a diamond dropped into a pile of pebbles. Her tailored coat hugged her figure perfectly, its dark gray fabric exuding elegance. Beneath it, she wore a sleek white blouse paired with slim-fitting trousers. A leather tote bag hung from her shoulder, its pristine condition hinting at luxury rather than utility. Everything about her screamed success, yet there she was, standing awkwardly at a bus stop, staring blankly at the schedule posted on the pole. She had just left an important meeting, a boardroom discussion that would determine the future of her company. As the CEO of Grant Technologies, one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the nation, Olivia rarely took public transportation. Her chauffeur-driven car usually waited for her outside every building she entered. But today, things were different. In her haste to leave the office after hours of intense negotiations, she had forgotten her wallet. Now, stranded without cash or cards, she faced an unexpected challenge: how to get home. The bus arrived with a loud hiss, its doors creaking open. Passengers shuffled inside, some fumbling with change, others swiping transit cards. Olivia hesitated, her mind racing. She glanced around, hoping someone might recognize her predicament and offer assistance. No one did. Everyone seemed too preoccupied with their own lives to notice hers. A few feet away, Jason Harper walked briskly down the sidewalk. His hands were shoved deep into the pockets of his worn jacket, and his sneakers scuffed slightly against the ground. At 28, Jason led a quiet life. He worked as a barista at a local cafe, where he spent most of his days serving customers and perfecting his latte art. Unlike Olivia, he didn't have a fancy title or a luxurious lifestyle. His world revolved around simple pleasures: reading books during breaks, taking long walks through the park, and helping those in need whenever he could. Jason spotted Olivia almost immediately. There was something unusual about her presence. At the bus stop, most people waiting for buses looked tired or impatient, but Olivia stood apart. Her posture was straight, her expression calm, though there was a faint hint of frustration in her eyes. It intrigued him. Slowing his pace, he approached cautiously. "Excuse me," Jason said gently, breaking the silence between them. "Do you need help with something?" Olivia turned to look at him, startled by his voice. Up close, she noticed the kindness in his hazel eyes and the warmth of his smile. For a moment, she considered brushing him off, unsure if accepting help from a stranger was wise, but then again, what choice did she have? I seem to have forgotten my wallet," she admitted reluctantly, her voice soft but steady. "I don't have any money for the bus." Jason nodded understandingly. Without another word, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill. "Here," he said, holding it out to her. "This should cover your fare." Olivia stared at the bill, surprised by the gesture. She hadn't expected anyone to offer such generosity, especially not a complete stranger. "Are you sure?" she asked hesitantly, glancing up at him. "Of course," Jason replied with a shrug. "It's no big deal. Just pay it forward someday, okay?" Their eyes met briefly, and for a split second, time seemed to stand still. Despite their vastly different lives, there was an unspoken connection between them, a shared humanity that transcended wealth, status, or background. Olivia felt a lump rise in her throat as she accepted the money. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the noise of the city. "I really appreciate it." With that, she stepped onto the bus, clutching the bill tightly in her hand. Jason watched her go, his heart swelling with satisfaction. Helping others came naturally to him, even when it meant sacrificing a little of his own comfort. He didn't know who she was or where she was headed, but he hoped she'd make it safely to her destination. As the bus pulled away from the curb, Olivia settled into a seat near the window. She couldn't shake the image of Jason's face from her mind, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the sincerity in his tone. He had given her more than just money. He had restored her faith in human kindness. In her high-powered world, interactions were often transactional, driven by self-interest. Yet here was a man who asked for nothing in return. For the rest of the ride, Olivia found herself reflecting on the encounter. Who was he? What kind of life did he lead? These questions lingered in her thoughts long after she arrived home. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she realized something profound. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness leave the biggest impressions. Little did either of them know, their paths were destined to cross again. The seed of connection planted that evening would grow into something neither of them could have imagined. But for now, they remained strangers, one unaware of the other's significance, and the other unknowingly touched by a fleeting act of compassion. Jason Harper walked home that evening with a sense of quiet satisfaction. The streets were quieter now, the rush-hour traffic having died down. Streetlights cast soft pools of light onto the pavement, and the cool breeze carried the faint smell of fallen leaves. Jason didn't think much about the woman at the bus stop after their brief encounter. To him, it had been a small act of kindness. Nothing more, nothing less. He was used to helping others in little ways, whether it was giving directions to tourists or sharing his umbrella with someone caught in the rain. It was simply who he was. When he reached his apartment, Jason slipped off his jacket and hung it on the back of a chair. His studio apartment wasn't much. It had just enough space for a bed, a small table, and a bookshelf crammed with novels, but it was cozy. He turned on the lamp by his bed and sat down with a cup of tea. As he sipped the warm liquid, his thoughts drifted to his day at work. He remembered the woman again, the way she had looked so out of place at the bus stop. Something about her had struck him as unusual, though he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Still, he shrugged it off and picked up a book to read before bed. Meanwhile, miles away in a luxurious penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, Olivia Grant sat in silence. Her apartment was the complete opposite of Jason's modest living space. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the city skyline, and sleek furniture filled the room. Yet, despite the opulence surrounding her, Olivia felt restless. She paced back and forth, replaying the events of the evening in her mind. She had spent years building her empire, climbing the ladder of success until she reached the top. At 32, she was one of the youngest CEOs in the tech industry, admired and respected by many. But tonight, none of that mattered. What stayed with her was the memory of a stranger's kindness, a man who hadn't known her name, her title, or her wealth, yet had gone out of his way to help her. In her world, people were often motivated by what they could gain. Rarely did she encounter genuine selflessness. Olivia stopped pacing and stared out the window. The city lights twinkled below, but her thoughts remained fixed on Jason. She wanted to know more about him. Who was this man who had given her money without expecting anything in return? What kind of life did he lead? These questions burned in her mind, refusing to let her rest. The next morning, Olivia decided to take action. She wasn't used to feeling indebted to anyone, but this time was different. Jason's gesture had touched her deeply, and she felt compelled to repay him. Using her resources discreetly, she began searching for information about the man she had met at the bus stop. It didn't take long for her assistant to find what she needed. By lunchtime, Olivia knew where Jason worked, a small cafe called Brew Haven, located in the heart of downtown Chicago. Curiosity drove her to visit the cafe later that afternoon. Dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, she walked inside, trying to blend in with the other customers. The cafe was warm and inviting, with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. Soft jazz music played in the background, creating a relaxed atmosphere. Olivia scanned the room, her eyes landing on Jason almost immediately. He stood behind the counter, skillfully steaming milk for a latte. His movements were fluid and practiced, a testament to years of experience. There was an ease about him, a calmness that seemed to radiate from within. Olivia watched as he interacted with customers, smiling warmly and cracking jokes. It was clear that he enjoyed his job, even if it wasn't glamorous or high-paying. For the next hour, Olivia lingered in the cafe, ordering a cappuccino and pretending to read a magazine while secretly observing Jason. She noticed how kind he was to everyone, how he greeted regulars by name and remembered their favorite drinks. When a young mother struggled to carry her stroller through the door, Jason rushed over to help without hesitation. These small acts of thoughtfulness reinforced what Olivia had already sensed. Jason was a good person. As the days passed, Olivia found herself returning to the cafe regularly. Each time she ordered something simple, a black coffee, a muffin, and sat quietly in the corner watching him. She never approached him directly, unsure of what to say or how to explain her presence. Instead, she contented herself with learning more about him through observation. One afternoon, as Jason served a line of customers, he glanced toward the corner and spotted Olivia. Recognition dawned on his face. She looked familiar, though he couldn't recall where he'd seen her before. Intrigued, he decided to approach her when the crowd thinned. "Hey," Jason said, walking over to her table with a friendly smile. "You look like someone I've seen before. Have we met?" Olivia looked up, startled by his sudden appearance. For a moment, she considered brushing him off, but then she remembered why she was there in the first place. "Actually, yes," she replied softly. "We did meet briefly last week at the bus stop." Understanding flickered in Jason's eyes. "Oh, right. You're the woman who needed money for the bus." He chuckled lightly. "How are you doing?" "I'm fine, thank you," Olivia said, returning his smile. "I actually wanted to return your money. You were very kind to me and I appreciate it." She pulled a folded bill from her pocket and held it out to him. Jason hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. "No, keep it, it's not much," Olivia insisted. "Please, I want to give it back, it's important to me." Reluctantly, Jason accepted the money, tucking it into his apron pocket. "Well, if you really want to repay me, maybe you could buy another coffee sometime," he joked, his tone light and playful. Olivia laughed, surprising herself with how natural it felt. "I think I can manage that." From that day forward, their interactions became more frequent. Olivia continued visiting the cafe, and Jason always greeted her warmly. They started talking more, sharing bits and pieces of their lives. Jason learned that Olivia worked in technology, though she kept the details vague. In turn, Olivia discovered that Jason loved books, music, and photography. Their conversations flowed easily, each meeting leaving them eager for the next. Despite their growing friendship, Olivia still hadn't revealed her true identity. She feared that telling Jason about her wealth and status might change things between them. For now, she cherished the simplicity of their connection, the way they could talk openly without pretense or judgment. Jason, too, found himself drawn to Olivia. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her intelligence, grace, and quiet confidence fascinated him. Yet, there was also a vulnerability beneath her polished exterior, a hint of loneliness that made him want to understand her better. Neither of them realized how much their lives were beginning to intertwine. What had started as a chance encounter at a bus stop was slowly evolving into something deeper. Their worlds, so vastly different, were inching closer together, guided by the invisible thread of kindness that had brought them together in the first place. The days turned into weeks, and Jason Harper and Olivia Grant grew closer with each passing visit to the cafe. Their conversations became longer, more personal, and filled with laughter. Jason found himself looking forward to Olivia's visits, which had become a regular part of his routine. He enjoyed talking to her, not just because she was easy to be around, but because she seemed genuinely interested in his life. For someone who spent most of his time serving coffee and chatting briefly with customers, having a real connection with someone felt refreshing. Olivia, too, cherished these moments. In her high-powered world, people often treated her differently once they learned who she was. They either fawned over her or tiptoed around her, afraid to say the wrong thing. But Jason was different. He didn't know she was a CEO millionaire, and that allowed her to be herself, just Olivia, a woman who loved books, music, and meaningful conversations. With him, she felt seen, not as a symbol of success, but as a person with thoughts, feelings, and dreams. One rainy afternoon, Olivia walked into Brewhaven holding an umbrella dripping with water. She shook it off before stepping inside, her cheeks flushed from the cold. Jason noticed her immediately and waved her over to the counter. "Hey, you're brave to venture out in this weather," he said with a grin, gesturing toward the rain-soaked streets outside. "I needed a break from work," Olivia replied, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "And besides, I've been craving one of your lattes all day." Jason chuckled as he began preparing her drink. "Well, you've come to the right place. What kind of latte are we talking about today? Vanilla, caramel, or plain?" "Plain, please," Olivia said, leaning against the counter. "Sometimes simple is best." As Jason worked, their conversation drifted naturally, touching on everything, from their favorite childhood memories to their views on life. Olivia shared stories of growing up in a small town, where she had dreamed of moving to the big city and making something of herself. Jason listened intently, nodding along as she spoke. When it was his turn to share, he told her about his love for photography and how he hoped to one day travel the world capturing its beauty through his lens. "You should go for it," Olivia encouraged him, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "Life's too short to put your dreams on hold." Jason smiled, appreciating her words. "Maybe someday I will," he said, "but for now I'm happy where I am." Their exchanges were always like this, honest, thoughtful, and full of mutual respect. Yet, there was something unspoken between them, a lingering question neither dared to ask. Who exactly was Olivia Grant, and why did she keep coming back to a little cafe when she clearly didn't need to? One evening after the cafe had closed, Jason decided to confront his curiosity. He had stayed late to clean up, and Olivia, who had lingered over a cup of tea, offered to help. As they wiped down tables and stacked chairs, Jason finally voiced what had been on his mind. "So," he began casually, trying to sound nonchalant, "what do you do for work?" "You mentioned technology, but you never really went into detail." Olivia paused, her hands gripping the edge of a chair. She had known this question would come eventually, but she hadn't prepared an answer. Telling Jason the truth felt risky. It might change how he saw her, and she wasn't ready to lose the simplicity of their friendship. On the other hand, keeping secrets weighed heavily on her conscience. "I run a company," she admitted after a moment, choosing her words carefully. "It's in the tech industry." Jason raised an eyebrow, impressed. "That sounds exciting. What kind of company?" "It's complicated," Olivia said, hesitating. "We develop software solutions for businesses. It's nothing glamorous, really." Jason laughed softly. "Nothing glamorous? Come on. Running a company sounds pretty impressive to me." Olivia shrugged, deflecting his compliment. "It has its moments, I guess, but it's also a lot of stress and long hours. Sometimes I wish I could just leave it all behind." Jason studied her face, noticing the faint lines of exhaustion beneath her calm demeanor. "You seem like someone who works hard," he said gently. "But don't forget to take care of yourself too." His words struck a chord with Olivia. For years, she had poured every ounce of energy into building her empire, sacrificing personal happiness along the way. Talking to Jason reminded her of the importance of balance, of finding joy in the little things rather than constantly chasing bigger achievements. As the weeks went by, their bond deepened even further. Olivia started opening up more about her struggles, the pressure of leading a company, the loneliness that came with her position, and the fear of being misunderstood. Jason listened without judgment, offering comfort and understanding whenever she needed it. In return, he shared his own fears and insecurities, revealing parts of himself he rarely showed to others. Despite their growing closeness, Olivia still wrestled with guilt over hiding her true identity. She knew she couldn't keep pretending forever. One day, as they sat together at a corner table in the cafe, she made a decision. Taking a deep breath, she looked at Jason and said, "There's something I need to tell you, Jason frowned slightly, sensing the seriousness in her tone. What is it? I haven't been completely honest with you, Olivia confessed, her voice trembling. About who I am. Jason tilted his head, confused. What do you mean? I'm the CEO of Grant Technologies, she blurted out, bracing herself for his reaction. It's a big company, you might have heard of it. For a moment, Jason stared at her in stunned silence. The name sounded familiar, though he couldn't quite place it. Then it hit him. Grant Technologies was one of the largest tech firms in the country, featured frequently in news articles and business magazines. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Her polished appearance, her intelligent conversations, the way she carried herself with quiet confidence. You're serious? Jason asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Olivia nodded, her heart pounding. Yes. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I was scared. Scared that you'd treat me differently if you knew. Jason leaned back in his chair, processing the revelation. He felt a mix of emotions, surprise, admiration, and a hint of insecurity. Here he was, a barista living paycheck to paycheck, sitting across from one of the most powerful women in the business world. How could they possibly exist in the same orbit? Why didn't you say anything earlier? He asked finally, his tone gentle rather than accusatory. Because I liked how normal things felt with you, Olivia admitted. With everyone else, my title defines me. But with you, I'm just Olivia. Her honesty touched Jason deeply. He realized that despite their differences, what they shared was real. It wasn't about money or status, it was about connection, trust, and understanding. Well, Jason said with a small smile, I guess that makes our bus stop meeting even more interesting. Olivia let out a nervous laugh, relieved that he wasn't upset. Does this change anything between us? Jason thought for a moment before answering. Not unless you want it to. I like you for who you are, not for what you do. If that hasn't changed, then neither has how I feel. Hearing those words brought tears to Olivia's eyes. She had spent so many years surrounded by people who only cared about her wealth and influence. To find someone who valued her for her humanity was a gift she hadn't expected but desperately needed. From that day forward, their relationship entered a new phase. Olivia no longer hid who she was, and Jason embraced her fully, quirks and all. They continued spending time together, exploring the city, sharing meals, and talking late into the night. Slowly but surely, they began to imagine a future where their worlds could merge. Not perfectly, but harmoniously. Neither of them knew what challenges lay ahead, but they were willing to face them together. After all, their story had begun with a simple act of kindness, a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures can lead to the greatest transformations. Jason Harper and Olivia Grant's relationship entered a new chapter after her confession. The revelation of her identity as the CEO of Grant Technologies had shifted things between them, but not in the way either of them feared. Instead of pulling them apart, it brought them closer. Jason admired Olivia for her honesty and vulnerability, while Olivia appreciated his unwavering acceptance of her, regardless of her wealth or status. Their bond deepened, built on trust and mutual respect. As weeks passed, they continued to explore their connection. Olivia invited Jason to join her for events that were part of her world, charity galas, art exhibitions, and networking dinners. At first, Jason hesitated. He wasn't used to fancy venues or formal attire, and he worried about fitting in among people who seemed so different from him. But Olivia reassured him, saying, "You don't have to impress anyone. Just be yourself." The first event they attended together was a charity gala hosted by one of Olivia's business partners. It took place in a grand ballroom adorned with crystal chandeliers and elegant floral arrangements. Guests dressed in tuxedos and designer gowns mingled over champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Jason felt out of place at first, his rented suit feeling stiff and unfamiliar compared to his usual casual clothes. But Olivia stayed by his side, introducing him to people and making sure he felt comfortable. To his surprise, many of the guests warmed up to him quickly. They were intrigued by his down-to-earth demeanor and genuine interest in their conversations. When someone asked what he did for a living, Jason simply said, "I'm a barista," without hesitation or embarrassment. Some chuckled politely, assuming he was joking, but Olivia stepped in. "He's being serious," she said with a proud smile. "And he makes the best coffee you'll ever taste." Her words carried weight, and soon others began asking Jason about his work. He spoke passionately about the joy of crafting the perfect latte, the satisfaction of brightening someone's day with a kind word, and the creativity involved in latte art. By the end of the evening, several guests approached him to say how refreshing it was to meet someone so grounded and humble. For Jason, the experience was both intimidating and eye-opening. He realized that Olivia's world wasn't as distant or alien as he had imagined. Beneath the glamour and sophistication, people still craved authenticity and connection. And in that setting, Jason's simplicity stood out like a beacon. On the other hand, Olivia found herself falling even more deeply for Jason. Watching him navigate her world with grace and confidence filled her with admiration. She saw how effortlessly he charmed those around him, not through grand gestures or polished speeches, but through sincerity and kindness. In a room full of powerful individuals, Jason's quiet strength shone brightest. Their time together wasn't limited to formal events. Outside of Olivia's high-profile lifestyle, they carved out moments of simplicity. On weekends, they visited local parks, strolling along tree-lined paths and stopping to admire the changing colors of autumn leaves. Jason introduced Olivia to his favorite spots: a cozy bookstore tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, a hidden cafe known for its homemade pies, and a scenic overlook where they could watch the sunset. One Saturday afternoon, Jason took Olivia to a photography exhibit featuring works by emerging artists. As they wandered through the gallery, Jason explained the stories behind some of the photographs, sharing insights only someone with a deep love for the craft could offer. Olivia listened, intently, captivated by his passion. "You should really pursue this," she told him as they stood before a breathtaking landscape photo. "Your eye for detail is incredible," Jason smiled, touched by her encouragement. "Maybe someday," he replied, "but for now, I'm happy just enjoying it." Olivia nodded, though her mind began turning over ideas. She wanted to support Jason's dreams, to help him see the potential she saw in him, but she also knew better than to push too hard. Their relationship thrived because it allowed space for each of them to grow at their own pace. Despite their growing closeness, challenges arose. Not everyone in Olivia's circle approved of her relationship with Jason. Some friends and colleagues whispered disapprovingly, questioning why a successful woman like her would choose someone so ordinary. Others suggested she was slumming, treating Jason as a fleeting distraction rather than a long-term partner. When rumors reached Olivia, she dismissed them with calm determination. "My life is my own," she told a particularly nosy acquaintance during a lunch meeting. "I don't owe anyone an explanation for who I care about." Jason, too, faced skepticism from certain corners of his life. A few co-workers teased him, good-naturedly calling him Mr. CEO, and joking about how he'd landed a millionaire girlfriend. While Jason laughed it off, the comments sometimes left him uneasy. He couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't quite measure up to Olivia's level of success. One evening, as they sat together on a bench overlooking the city skyline, Jason voiced his concerns. "Do you ever worry that we're too different?" he asked, his tone hesitant. "Like maybe we come from two completely separate worlds?" Olivia turned to look at him, her expression thoughtful. "Of course our lives are different," she admitted, "but that doesn't mean we can't find common ground. What matters isn't where we come from, it's where we're going. Together." Her words resonated deeply with Jason. He realized that their differences weren't obstacles. They were opportunities to learn from each other, to broaden their perspectives and grow as individuals. With Olivia, he felt inspired to dream bigger, to step outside his comfort zone and embrace new possibilities. And with Jason, Olivia rediscovered the beauty of simplicity. learning to slow down and appreciate life's quieter moments. As winter approached, bringing colder temperatures and shorter days, their relationship continued to flourish. They celebrated small victories, a promotion at Jason's cafe, a successful product launch at Olivia's company, and supported each other through setbacks. When Jason struggled with self-doubt, Olivia reminded him of his strengths. When Olivia felt overwhelmed by the pressures of leadership, Jason offered a listening ear and a comforting presence. One snowy December evening, Olivia invited Jason to her penthouse for dinner. The apartment was warm and inviting, with soft lights casting a golden glow across the rooms. Olivia had prepared a meal herself, surprising Jason with her culinary skills. They sat at the dining table, sharing stories and laughter as snowflakes drifted past the windows. After dessert, Olivia led Jason to the balcony, where they wrapped themselves in blankets and gazed out at the city. The streets below sparkled with holiday lights, and the air carried a sense of magic. For a moment, neither of them spoke, content to simply enjoy the view and each other's company. "Thank you," Olivia said softly, breaking the silence. "For everything." Jason looked at her, surprised. "What for?" "For seeing me," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "For loving me for who I am, not for what I have. You've reminded me of things I'd forgotten. That kindness matters more than titles, that happiness comes from within, and that sometimes the smallest acts can change lives." Jason reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You've changed my life too," he said. "You've shown me that dreams are worth chasing no matter how big or small, and that love, real love, transcends all the boundaries we think exist." In that moment, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the city and the warmth of their connection, they both knew their journey was far from over. Challenges would undoubtedly arise, and their differences might test them. But they also knew that their love was strong enough to withstand anything, as long as they faced it together. What started as a chance encounter at a bus stop had blossomed into something extraordinary. Two people from vastly different worlds had found each other, proving that sometimes the most unexpected connections are the ones that last. And as they stood there, hand in hand, they dared to imagine all the possibilities that lay ahead. Months passed, and Jason Harper and Olivia Grant's relationship continued to grow stronger. They had learned to navigate the complexities of their differing worlds, finding balance between simplicity and sophistication. Jason still worked at the cafe, pouring lattes and chatting with customers, while Olivia led her company with determination and grace. Their lives were busy, but they made time for each other, cherishing every moment they shared. One spring morning, as the city woke up to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through budding trees, Jason found himself reflecting on how much his life had changed since meeting Olivia. He thought about the bus stop encounter that had started it all, the small act of kindness that had unknowingly set their story in motion. That fleeting moment had grown into something profound, reshaping both their lives in ways neither could have predicted. Olivia, too, spent quiet moments thinking about their journey. She often marveled at how Jason had brought light into her life, reminding her of the importance of connection and compassion. His presence had grounded her, helping her rediscover parts of herself she had long forgotten. Together they had created a bond that transcended wealth, status, or background, a bond rooted in understanding, trust, and love. It was during one of these reflective mornings that Olivia decided to take a bold step. She had always admired Jason's passion for photography and his dream of traveling the world to capture its beauty. Though he rarely spoke of it openly, she knew it was something he deeply desired. Determined to support him, she began secretly planning a surprise. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Jason arrived at Olivia's penthouse, expecting a casual day together. Instead, he was greeted by an envelope sitting on the dining table. Curious, he picked it up and opened it, revealing 2 plane tickets inside. His eyes widened as he read the destination. Iceland. "What's this?" Jason asked, turning to Olivia, who stood nearby with a mischievous smile. "It's your chance to chase your dream," Olivia said simply. "You've always talked about wanting to see the world through your lens. Well, Here's the start. Jason stared at her, speechless. The gesture overwhelmed him, not because of the expense, but because of the thoughtfulness behind it. Olivia, I don't know what to say. Say you'll go, she replied, stepping closer. Say you'll let me be part of your adventure. Tears welled up in Jason's eyes as he hugged her tightly. Thank you, he whispered. This means more to me than you'll ever know. The trip to Iceland became a turning point for them. For 2 weeks, they explored glaciers, waterfalls, and volcanic landscapes, capturing stunning images along the way. Jason's camera became an extension of himself, and Olivia watched in awe as he immersed himself in his craft. Each photograph told a story, not just of the breathtaking scenery, but of the joy and fulfillment he felt in pursuing his passion. As they traveled, they also discovered new sides of each other. Jason saw Olivia's adventurous spirit, her willingness to embrace challenges, and her ability to find wonder in even the smallest details. Olivia witnessed Jason's creativity, his patience, and his deep appreciation for life's beauty. These experiences strengthened their connection, proving that their differences only added richness to their relationship. When they returned home, Jason felt inspired to take his photography to the next level. With Olivia's encouragement, he began submitting his work to galleries and competitions. To his amazement, his photos gained attention, earning praise from critics and enthusiasts alike. One gallery owner even offered him a solo exhibition, giving him the platform he needed to share his vision with the world. Meanwhile, Olivia faced challenges of her own. Her company was undergoing a major transition, expanding into international markets and navigating complex negotiations. The pressure weighed heavily on her, and there were days when she doubted her decisions. But Jason was always there, offering words of encouragement and reminding her of her strength. You've built an empire, he told her one evening as they sat on her balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. You can handle anything. His belief in her gave her the courage to keep moving forward. Slowly but surely, she guided her company through the changes, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever. Their lives intertwined in countless ways, blending their strengths and supporting each other's dreams. Jason's photography exhibition became a success, drawing crowds and earning accolades. On opening night, Olivia stood proudly beside him, holding his hand as strangers admired his work. For Jason, it was a dream come true, a testament to the power of perseverance and the unwavering support of someone who believed in him. In return, Jason helped Olivia reconnect with her passions outside of work. He encouraged her to write, something she had loved doing in her youth but had abandoned over the years. Together, they spent evenings brainstorming ideas, and soon Olivia began penning essays about leadership, innovation, and the human side of business. Her writings resonated with readers, inspiring others to approach their careers with empathy and purpose. As summer approached, Jason and Olivia celebrated their milestones, both personal and professional. They hosted a small gathering at Olivia's penthouse, inviting friends, family, and colleagues to share in their happiness. It was a diverse group, reflecting the unique blend of their worlds. Some guests wore suits and gowns, while others opted for jeans and sneakers. Yet everyone mingled effortlessly, united by the warmth of the occasion. During the celebration, Olivia took a moment to address the crowd. Standing beside Jason, she raised her glass and spoke from the heart. Life has a way of surprising us, she began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. A year ago, I never imagined I'd meet someone like Jason, someone who taught me to see the world differently, to value kindness over titles, and to believe in the beauty of simple things. Because of him, I've become a better version of myself. She paused, glancing at Jason with a loving smile. And to Jason, I want to say thank you for being exactly who you are. You've shown me that true happiness comes from within and that love knows no boundaries. Whatever the future holds, I'm ready to face it, with you. The room erupted in applause as Jason stepped forward to respond. I never expected to fall in love with someone like Olivia, he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. But I did. And because of her, I've dared to dream bigger, to step outside my comfort zone and to embrace every opportunity life offers. She's my partner, my inspiration, and my best friend. As they embraced, surrounded by cheers and laughter, it was clear that their love had grown into something extraordinary. They had weathered doubts, societal expectations, and the challenges of their contrasting lives. Yet, through it all, they had remained steadfast, proving that love could bridge any gap. In the months that followed, Jason and Olivia continued to build a life together. They moved into a cozy apartment that reflected both their personalities, modern yet welcoming, with shelves lined with books and walls adorned with Jason's photographs. They traveled whenever they could, exploring new places and creating memories, and they supported each other's dreams, knowing that their partnership was built on mutual respect and admiration. One crisp autumn evening, as they walked hand through a park blanketed in golden leaves, Jason stopped suddenly. Turning to Olivia, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a delicate ring, its design simple yet elegant. "Olivia," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "you've given me so much. Your love, your trust, your belief in me. Will you spend the rest of your life with me? Will you let me be yours forever?" Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she nodded, unable to speak. Slipping the ring onto her finger, she threw her arms around him, holding him tightly. In that moment, surrounded by nature's beauty and the promise of a shared future, they knew they had found something rare and precious. Their wedding was a reflection of their journey, simple, heartfelt, and filled with love. Friends and family gathered in a garden lit by fairy lights, celebrating the union of two people who had defied odds to find each other. As they exchanged vows, their voices steady and sincere, it was clear that their love was unshakable. Years later, as they looked back on their lives, Jason and Olivia marveled at how far they had come. What had begun as a chance encounter at a bus stop had blossomed into a lifetime of love, growth, and discovery. They had proven that true connection transcends labels, reminding everyone who knew them that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness lead to the greatest transformations. And so, their story became a testament to the power of love, to see beyond differences, to embrace vulnerability, and to cherish the beauty of simply being human.